Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It's going to be a really great conversation about human design in general. As you'll learn in my introduction of Katie, she is somebody that teaches about human design, that's really interested about human design, and she's also a generator. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is generators. I'm a manifesting generator, so we're going to kind of have that conversation of the difference between manifesting generators and generators. But thank you so much for coming on today, Katie. A little introduction. Katie is a self-discovery guide. She dips her toes in a bunch of different things, which we were laughing about because it kind of shows the energy of a manifesting generator too, but being interested and teaching about Ayurveda and human design and hands-on therapies to help women align with their true and unique self. So thank you so much. I'm so excited for this conversation.
So much for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and give a little bit more of a description, introduction to yourself, and then we will jump into human design.
Awesome. Like Hannah said, I'm a self-discovery guide. I'm really passionate about helping women specifically, but men too, or however you identify, lean into their uniqueness. I feel like the more that we understand how innately unique we each are, and we really lean into that, the better everyone is. Not only ourselves, because we're showing up in like our truest, deepest light, but everyone wins around us. It's not a selfish thing like I think a lot of people or our society has coined. So I have found these systems. First, I'm an esthetician and massage therapist. So that's how my journey kind of started, is being in spaces and healing spaces with people and just helping them discover their bodies, like the thing that they live in and that they are unattached to in a lot of ways. And then my journey went into teaching yoga, to studying Ayurveda, which is a sister science to yoga, and now mostly human design. So I feel like my studies have gone from like kind of more gross, like hands-on, like big things, not gross in the gross sense, but like the gross body, and then more into subtle therapies. So like human design and Reiki and those kind of things that kind of work more with our energy and our subtle bodies. So yeah, I split my time between Florida. That's where I'm at right now in the winter. And then I live on Block Island. That's where I met Hannah in the summer. And I have massage businesses in both places. So that's my main focus right now, but I've started getting into helping people with nutrition and lifestyle with Ayurveda, and then honoring their own unique energy and how that operates through human design.
I love that. And I love you're splitting your time between like two of the best places, Florida and Block Island. So let's jump into human design. Let's jump into generators. One of my favorite questions to ask in this podcast series is, how has learning about human design affected your life and how you run, I mean, so many different aspects of your life, but your business, how you interact with your family, how you interact with the world. What was that kind of gift that human design brought you?
Yeah. Well, I first heard about human design for the very first time on a beach on Block Island, which is kind of magical because I was sitting with a dear friend who was studying it, and she gave me kind of like a synopsis of, it's a astrological system based on your date, time, and place of birth that kind of gives you an energetic roadmap on how to move through life with the least amount of resistance. She said something like that, and I was like, sold. Like, what is that? I had the full, what I didn't know at the time, but a full generator, like sacral gut response.
Yeah.
I didn't have the language for it. So I started studying human design about 2 years ago. And I think that's what it's given me the most, is language around the things that I've kind of always felt. I definitely feel very much like a generator, and I definitely have that sacral energy and that sacral response, but I never had the language around it to know that that was unique to me and into generators. So just having the language and the understanding of how I operate has been wonderful. And then I feel like human design is such permission slip giving. It like gives you a permission slip to just really be who you are and then uniqueness. And today we're going to talk about like generator, which a lot of people are generators. So we'll discuss it more probably in like broader senses, but as you get niche down in your human design, you really see how like the uniqueness of everyone, no, like no two generators are the same, you
Yeah.
know? So the uniqueness of everyone. We'll be talking in broader terms today. But yeah, I would say it's given me a language and permission slip to really move through life with the least amount of resistance, which is like such a wonderful feeling.
That when you said that, that just like lit me up. That was such a beautiful and eloquent way and such a true way to describe human design, what I have found in my life too. And thank you for bringing up this is broad. I try to bring that up in every video because one of my goals in my YouTube channel is to make whatever topic we're talking about very beginner friendly, very easily digestible, very open for everyone because I think especially with things as complex as human design, sometimes we can get very lost when you start talking about the gates and your gifts and like all of these little aspects. So my goal is to be very big picture and just talk about one aspect of human design, which is the 5 energy types. And we're just talking about generators today. But like you said, we are so unique. There's so many different aspects of our chart. So this is just simply meant to be a nice beginning, a nice intro to if you're a generator watching this, or if you know any generators that are in your life. So thank you for bringing that up. So I want to dive into generators. I would love for you to describe what it means, what the energy of a generator is, as well as how that shows up in your own life and your own body, if you could.
Yeah. So generators are definitely like creative powerhouses and doers. Like they have this amazing amount of energy to get a lot done, but they're most aligned when they're doing things that they really, really love. So
Mhm.
as a generator, it's important that you follow your joy and excitement. That's like number one. It's like you have to follow your joy and excitement because the more that you lean into that, the more your energy is being used in the best way possible. And like I said earlier, then everybody wins. The
Mhm.
tricky part about being a generator is that we are very, very capable. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
We are the ones, generators and manifesting generators, we're the majority of the population. We are the ones that kind of make the world go round. Everyone has their own unique piece and their own
Mhm.
unique way to contribute, but we are the doers. And so because of that, we have this amazing capacity to do and do and do, and we can do and do and do in the wrong direction very easily.
Mhm.
The things don't light us up, and that can lead to burnout very, very easily. But the great thing is you can auto correct really quickly if you can just get rid of the things that no longer kind of serve you and no longer bring you joy. You can kind of get back to like feeling really rejuvenated really, really quickly. So how that has shown up in my life is just trying to delegate things that don't light me up. Like that's
Mhm.
it's a fantasy land to think we can delegate everything that doesn't light us up, right? But
Yeah.
to really try and delegate and get the things off of my plate that really are I feel draining to me, so I have time to really lean into the things that bring me joy and excitement. Because I know the more that I do that, the more magnetic I become, and the more things are attracted to me. So that's what's really, I think, one of the big lessons I've learned.
Mhm.
The other thing is setting boundaries, which we all have to do, but especially I think as generators, because the world sees us as being very capable and they know that they can come to us and more than likely we can solve their problem. You know, we have this amazing energetic capacity to like, I'll just do it myself, you know, even though we don't
Mhm.
want to do it. And the world sees that. And so they come to us not in a malicious way, but just like, oh, that sounds like a great job for Katie. Like, oh, Katie will do that. Oh, Katie will do that. And
Yeah.
so setting those boundaries of what really excites you and what really brings you joy is like one of the number one lessons that I've learned and that I share with other generators.
Thank you for sharing that. That comes up a lot in my life. My best friend is a generator, and my other best friend is a manifesting generator. So, like, we're this little trio, right? And we all have conversations. We don't necessarily talk in terms of human design, but I have kind of taught them about human design as I've been on my journey, and that was one of the really big moments in my life that clicked, because I used to use language before even learning about human design of like, yes, I can do this. I can do everything. Like I can carry my entire household. I can pay the bills. I can keep the house clean. I can cook. I can keep it running. I can, do all of the things, but I don't fucking want to. And
Yeah.
like the lack of, in the past, the lack of setting boundaries led to so much frustration, which is my word, and anger, to be honest. um, and I see that come up with my two best friends too, is they're like, I'll just do it. It's fine. Like I'll just do it. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like if it's something that you feel is not aligned, how can we look at this situation differently? How can we approach it a little bit differently? Because we do have that ability to just do it. And again, before learning about human design, it was something that I didn't necessarily realize that not everyone was that way. Like I would think that like they're just being lazy, or they're just being impossible or something
Mm.
like that. But now kind of recognizing that everyone has their own unique gifts and strategies, and not everyone is able to just kind of pick themselves up and buck up and move through their day.
Yeah, and it's interesting a point you just made that not everyone, has that way. I will say for the other kind of three types, we're not talking about projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. They live in a generator world. So a lot of times they've been
Mhm,
conditioned to be that way.
mhm,
So when they learn about their type and that they're supposed to operate in a very different way than the majority of the world is, it's such permission slip. It's such a relief to them because it's like they may have had generator parents, that kind of not in a bad way condition them, but just we're in a household where we just we do the things. And so that's what's so powerful about learning your human design type, whatever it is, because you may have been around people that were a very, very different type.
mhm.
And so you may have been kind of trained in a way that isn't really true to the way that you best operate energetically.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a good point, and I do see that come up with my clients too, because I make them I ask them to give me all of their information, and then I learn their human design energy type, and we kind of walk through that together too.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, let's talk about the self and the not self. So each energy type, for those of you that are brand new to human design, each energy type has their own unique, what we call self and not self. I like to call it like living in a like how you know that you're living in alignment, and then that kind of like edge that kind of maybe gives you a descriptive feeling or energy or emotion that maybe you're not living in alignment, and kind of an invitation to redirect. But we'll just call it self and not self.
Uh-huh.
Generators have unique words. Could you share those two words, and then how learning about that maybe has.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a huge piece for me, or at least it was. So, the self theme for a generator is satisfaction. So, that means that you feel on track. So, like the ideal day for a generator is they wake up rested, they use their energy. Generators have a lot of energy that needs to get used up in a day. So, they're using their energy in a way that feels really great, that feels exciting, that feels joyful, that feels satisfying, and they kind of like fall into bed just feeling really deeply satisfied using up that energy. If you haven't used up that energy, you may have a hard time sleeping. And that's another big key for generators because we do have a lot of energy. So even on those days you just kind of want to be a slug, like going out and just going for like even a little walk, because you really need to drain your battery before you get into bed. So like the ideal day, like I said, is kind of waking up, doing the things that you love, and then just feeling deeply satisfied and kind of falling into bed, draining that battery. So satisfaction is just like you said, a key that you're in alignment, and that things are going in the right way for you specifically. And then the not self theme is frustration.
Mhm.
And it's not that we're never going to feel frustration, like that's impossible. We're never going to always feel satisfied either. They're just emotions that we can use to kind of recalibrate and like check in with ourselves. So frustration may look like for a generator that they're doing things that they don't love, that their day is being taken up and their energy is kind of being sucked out of them in ways that they don't want to do. Another thing is that it might be that they're trying to initiate and force too much. As generators, we're kind of supposed to sit back and let life come to us. The more that we follow our joy and excitement, and this is true for manifesting generators as well, the more magnetic we become, and like opportunities kind of come to us. Like we don't necessarily have to go out searching or initiating. Once again, it's not that you can't ever do that, but if you're feeling frustrated and you're trying to initiate something, maybe that's why. So they're just really beautiful guideposts, to like kind of check in and see, how you're doing. So if you're ever feeling frustrated, it's just a sign to like, okay, I need to step back for a second and just like check in and see what's going on here, just kind of get a bird's eye view and kind of feel into what may be sparking that frustration.
Yeah, zoom out for a second. I say I just need to zoom out for a second. I'm really interested. This might be a very niche question, but there are a lot of like small business owners and entrepreneurs that follow along my journey. So as a generator and a manifesting generator, because our strategy is to wait to respond.
Mhm.
Again, if you're not familiar with human design, manifestors, their strategy, they can initiate. Our strategy is more to wait to respond to life happening, right? Like you just said. So how have you found that that plays into your business when you are wanting to maybe launch a new program or come up with a new offering or something like that? How have you navigated that as the wait to respond strategy?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's
Mm.
very tricky because in that sense, in that particular sense, I think a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs, are conditioned to be more like manifestors, the
Yes.
ones that are supposed to initiate and innovate and come up with these like new crazy ideas. That's more for generators. I mean, sorry, for manifestors. That's more for manifestors. So as generators, I don't like the wording wait to respond
Mm.
because I feel like that is like, oh, we're just supposed to kind of like sit in our house and like for the world to come to us. And
Yes.
that's not really what it is either. And so I have found the best ways for me, if I'm trying to come up with a new offering or like a new, whatever it might be for my business, is like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I feel like a lot of times we feel like we have to come up with something that nobody has ever done. Well, we
Mhm.
have to understand that like we only have a certain capacity to reach so many people. And not that you don't want to copy what someone else is doing, but you can get inspiration. And
Mhm.
so I think whenever I'm feeling stuck or feeling like I have this idea, but I feel like I'm initiating it, I a lot of times will look at what other entrepreneurs are doing and then see if I get a response from that. Say, oh, that's a great idea, but it's not for me.
Mhm.
Oh, I really like that idea. I'm getting like a big sacral response, but I'm going to make it my own, and it could be something that's totally unrelated to your business, but the way that they've structured something. So getting out into the world is huge, not just sitting in your little office and you're like, a lot of us work from home, but like going even to a coffee shop. Like it's amazing what kind of inspiration you can get just being around other people and other energy. So giving yourself things to respond to, whether
Mhm.
that's, going on social media and kind of looking at what other people are doing, that can be a slippery slope. So, you have to be careful with that. But going to networking events, in your town, even just going to coffee shops or like work meetups and just giving yourself things to respond to, I think is a great way to kind of get a relationship built with like what feels good and what you're responding to and what you're trying to initiate yourself. And it's not that you can never initiate. There's never like, it's not like you can't ever do that. But if you're trying to initiate and you're getting that feeling of frustration or it's not going, then that's the time to kind of check in.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for adding that kind of caveat. So tell me how right at the end you're kind of sharing like this is how you can learn what you want to respond to and build that muscle. Let's talk about that. Like how do you know? Because let me make sure that I'm saying this right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know with manifesting generators, we do have that sacral
Mhm.
defined. The sacral center is defined. So we have like that, like full body yes, full body no. And for me, like one of the things that I have learned, um, actually, you probably hear me doing it, which is really like obnoxious in filming a video. But when somebody says something that I really agree with, like I vocalize. I can't help but vocalize, and so like you'll hear me when I'm in a school or learning about something or having a discussion with a friend and they say something, I'm like yes, and I have to vocalize. But it's also for me in my body, like I feel the pull forward, I feel the push back for no. Is this the same thing for generators? And
Mhm.
how have you developed that muscle? Because I think one of the most maybe tricky things for people that like are having trouble like kind of connecting to their body. One of the questions that I get asked the most often is like, how do I build my intuition? How do I learn to listen to that strong yes or no? How do I learn to decipher like what a strong yes or no is?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And generators do.
Okay.
Generators and manifesting generators have the same defined sacral. And so they're going to have that gut response. Now, there is a caveat to that depending on your authority. So you'll have sacral authority, or there's something called emotional, or wait for clarity, depending on what site you're on. And so that means, so the sacral response, manifesting generators and generators will always have like this kind of initial yes or no. But there's a caveat that if you have a defined emotional center, this is getting a little deep. You're supposed to kind of sleep on it before you actually
Okay.
follow yes or no.
Yeah.
So I have sacral authority. So I am that like definite, like instant yes or no. The thing is that the mind will never stop getting in the way. So
Mhm.
like I may have that initial kind of yes or no, but like it instantly will go to the mind and I can talk myself in or out of anything. And so with that sacral response, you have to learn to trust it, and it's a practice.
Mhm.
So I would say the thing that I did and the thing that I tell my clients is to start small. Like start with the coffee house menu,
Yeah.
reading through it and like, okay, no, 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 yes, and like see what that feels like and really try and connect with that. So start with little things, even in the morning. Let's say like every morning you get up to have a cup of coffee because you do, but one morning you're like, it just doesn't even sound good. Tea sounds better, and like giving yourself, like I said, those things to respond to and starting to work on that muscle. That was such a great way to say it, with small things first. Build up that trust. So then when bigger questions come into your life, you have this ability to not only feel it and recognize the feeling, but you trust it as
Mm.
well. So it's kind of like two steps. It's like feeling it and then also being able to trust it. So along those lines, I would say embodiment practices are always great, like meditation, yoga, anything like that is going to be good just to reconnect to your body. And then another fun thing to do, and you can have a friend, I would say have somebody else do it for you. Manifesting generators and generators are really great with yes, no questions.
Yeah.
So it's hard when you have a lot of options because it's like you don't know where to respond. So if you're trying to make a decision, like have a friend ask you a series of yes and no questions. And they could start out simple, like, do you prefer oatmeal or do you like oatmeal for breakfast? Yes or no? Like little things that might be part of your day. And then it could lead up like, do you want to move somewhere, like, but form it in a yes or no question. It's a beautiful way to support your generator and manifesting generator friends, and it's a great way for them to like connect with that sacral response with those yes no questions.
I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. We were talking about that I think I was just talking to a manifestor, Leah, which I'll link the video here. And we were talking about how that is different with manifestors and projectors as well, and I think reflectors.
Mhm.
But the mangen and the generator responds very well to the yes no questions. And I've practiced that in my own life too. I love the coffee shop idea. I love like getting dressed in the morning too, or breakfast. Like what do I don't know, like getting dressed in the morning, playing around with that. Like, do I want to wear jeans today? Do I want to wear sweatpants today? Like, just it kind of sounds silly, like saying it out loud, but being able to practice that and building that muscle, then you get to these moments where it's maybe a little bit more important. You feel like there's a little bit more weight to this decision, and you have built that confidence muscle in being able to trust yourself and then honor yourself. So like the next thing I would say, or just make sure that you're doing it. Like do
Mhm.
whatever, if you feel like whatever you feel like oatmeal today and that was your yes, then follow through and allow that to continue in with your body full yes. And you're providing that yes, you're providing whatever it said yes to. So then you're continuing to build that muscle. And that for me has made such a big difference in how I move through making decisions.
Wow. Yeah, another thing like that I wanted to just get back to is like you said, you like to just say yes or like like
Yeah.
those are all very sacral response, like sacral noises, so like allowing yourself to go when you're eating something yummy. That's another way to kind of like exercise that. I think
Mhm.
a lot of times as kids, we're kind of like, oh, not conditioned out of that, but even saying uh-huh or instead of saying yes or no, like sometimes that's more of kind of your sacral talking of
Mhm.
like, And I actually had it's funny because I didn't realize it's about myself, but my sister-in-law this summer said, when you say no, you say, no. And I go, I do? Like I had no idea. And I have no idea if I've been doing that my whole life, but that is totally my sacral. She goes, yes, every time you say no, you go, no. And
I
I'm like,
love
"Oh my
that.
God." So I'm glad I do that because at that no, then I know that that's like my sacral is saying or So practicing those type of things and feeling that in the body can be super, super helpful as well.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. So, wrapping up, what is there any other part of generators in general or human design in general that you feel like you would really like to share before we close?
Yeah, I would say the one thing that I always like to share with people is like you kind of said at the beginning, like human design is kind of this vast system. Like you can get really niche down and like into the intricacies of your design, but it all comes back a lot of times to your type. Your
Mhm.
strategy, which is mine, is to responding your authority, trusting my sacral. It'll be different for everyone, but those three pieces are really the foundation. And if you're living in alignment with those, everything else, whether you're aware of it or not, in your chart is kind of naturally falling into place. So it's fun to learn about those things and it's fun to get into the deeper layers of our chart, but it's not always necessary at the beginning. This is an experiment. So it's meant to be experimented with. It's not something that you're going to walk away from this recording and all of a sudden implement it and like feel all of the benefits of it. It's meant to be played with and had fun with. So I would say to the generators out there, just take even just one aspect of what we've talked about today and try and kind of implement that into your life. Another thing I would say is it's fun to sometimes, once you learn about this information, to kind of do an audit of your life and say, okay,
Mhm.
what are the places that I've really trusted my yes or no? And how did that work out for me? And what are the places where I didn't trust it, or I tried to initiate something, or I overworked? And like, how did that work out for me? Because even though up to this point, you may have been unaware of human design or your type, it's still been playing in your favor. And there's been times where you've been in alignment. You just didn't have the human design language around it. So it's kind of fun to just look back and say, oh, like that time I just really trusted my gut and like there was no reason behind it. I just trusted that it was the next right step without getting too caught up in like the step after that. And it really led me into this aligned place. So that's kind of a fun thing to kind of like go back and kind of do like an audit of your life and just see how human design has kind of, or your human design energy type has kind of shown up already.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that invitation. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you if they want to follow up or kind of just follow your journey, your teaching?
Yeah. So I have an Instagram page. It's linked. I think it's on my little name, but it's at align_ with Katie. And I offer human design readings 1-to-1. I offer Ayurvedic consultations. I do some online yoga as well. So you can find all my information there.
Yay! Thank you so much, Katie.
Awesome.
This is so
Thank you.
fun.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. It was wonderful. Thanks.